All right, guys, we're going to get started. I want to thank everybody for coming out today. Robert Morris University's Business Week 2016. Today, we have the first presentation from Eric here from Becker, and there's a lot of changes in the CPA exam. I know for most of you are accounting majors. If not, it's still some really vital information here. So, with no further ado, Eric.
Thank you. First off, I'd like to say thank you for having us here today. It's always a pleasure to get out and be able to speak to students. I apologize for the mic. I hope it's not too loud, but can everyone hear me okay? We're good? All right. My name's Eric Jackson. I am a regional manager for Becker. Most of you know us as Becker CPA Exam Review. And with me in the back of the room is Mary Patterson, who is the local account manager. You'll get both of our contact information at the end of the presentation. So if you do have any follow-up questions, we'll be happy to answer anything you have, okay? What we want to go over today, a little bit of a mix of our presentations that we do. We're going to start off talking about the accounting profession as a whole, the CPA designation, why you should be interested in the designation, transition a little bit into what we call careers in accounting, talking about different career paths, public versus industry, government, some things like that, and then finally wrap it up with the 2017 exam changes. So, how I like to start is by getting a little bit of information from all of you so I can tailor my information to make it most applicable, okay? So how many of you are accounting majors? Beautiful, that is good. How many are seniors or plan on graduating within the next year? Juniors? Any sophomores? Freshmen? Okay, so we have a happy mix. That is perfect. So, for those of you that are seniors, the beginning part may be a little redundant when we're talking about careers in accounting. I'm sure in your senior year you know the difference between industry, public accounting, but then we'll transition into some of the things, again, that are more applicable for you, okay? In the blue bag that Mary passed out, there is a little white card. If you don't mind filling that out before the end of the presentation, you don't need to do it right now. Mary will actually do a raffle separate from the red ticket that you received, and we'll give away some things at the end, and then we'll keep you up to date on any relevant information. So again, we'll talk about the 2017 proposed exam changes. That's going to be something that's very important to all of you, not just the seniors in the room, so we want to make sure we keep you up to date, okay? So starting off, you can see accounting is the language of business. What we want to convey with this slide is just because you're an accounting major, you want to go into accounting or finance, whatever field you want to go into, please don't think narrowly that you have to go into public accounting, right? A lot of you have passion for sports or arts, healthcare. Every organization in the country has an accounting department, right? So don't think narrowly that you have to go into public accounting. I know when I was in school, I thought all CPAs sat in a little cubicle with a pocket protector and did taxes all day, right? Not the case. So you can see some different things. International, a lot of people have a passion, they want to travel overseas. Don't limit your options to just public accounting. That is certainly a great career path, but it's not the only one, okay? So moving over, again, I mentioned public accounting a couple times. Forensics, that's one of the hot topics, right? It's been for the past couple years. Generally speaking, when we hear students that say, oh, I want to go into forensic accounting, I always tell people to temper their expectations a bit. The public accounting firms are going to want to start you in a traditional audit function before you move into that. Certainly possible to start in forensics, but don't, again, limit your options, okay? Environmental, I know that's another hot topic. All of these startups, whether it's solar, wind, all these different things, hungry for accountants. So when you're job searching, when you're looking, keep in mind some of these others. Government and not-for-profit, you know, whether it's state government, city government, federal, a ton of openings, okay? They're always looking for qualified candidates. And then at the bottom, academia. All universities are always looking for people who have certifications, who have advanced degrees to teach. Again, just another career path to keep in mind. So what are employers looking for? You're out job searching right now. Business Week is certainly a great start for all of you. You're going to be doing career fairs, meet the firms nights, internships, things like that. Employers are looking for leadership experience. So I tell everyone, do something to differentiate yourself. You know, there's thousands of people graduating each year with an accounting degree. Do something to set yourself apart, whether that's being involved in a club, an athletic team, working through school. Do something that you can put on that resume that is going to differentiate you from everybody else who's applying for that position. Excellent communication skills, written and oral, okay? You'll see when we get into the exam, they're actually adding some written communication. This is extremely important to firms, corporations. They want to see that you can communicate internally and also externally with clients. So communication skills, very important. Analytical skills, they want to see that you can think and interpret data. They want you to be team-oriented. All companies anymore function in a team manner. You need to be able to play well in the sandbox with others. And then finally, technology savvy. They want to know that you have the ability to work on the current technologies, okay? Any questions this far? Okay, and I should have said at the beginning, if you have any questions on anything I'm going over, feel free to put your hand up. I can take those right then. Mary and I will also be around afterwards to answer any one-offs or individual questions you might have. So, what is a CPA? All CPAs are accountants, but not all accountants are CPAs, right? Just because you work in an accounting function, you have an accounting degree, doesn't mean you're a CPA. Of course, there's a giant exam and some work experience you have to get before you become a CPA. So they're licensed to practice according to state-specific requirements. That's very important. Each state has their own individual requirements. Is anybody thinking about going outside of Pennsylvania? Okay, what states? Just throw some out. Michigan? Okay. So most states at this point are what we call a 150 state, meaning you need 150 credits to become certified. Now, Pennsylvania, as most of you know, is a soft 150, meaning you can sit for the exam with 120, but you need to obtain those additional 30 credits before you become licensed. Some states are what we refer to as a hard 150, meaning you need to have those 150 credits in hand before they'll even let you sit for the exam. So when we talk about knowing your state requirements and making sure you're brushed up on them, extremely important before you begin this process, okay? And then of course CPAs must adhere to high standards of continuing education, ethics, and professionalism. So what do CPAs do? I will tell you, I don't like this slide. This is very limiting, and it doesn't do a great job of explaining all the different things that CPAs do, but they examine financial reports, prepare taxes, provide a picture of an organization's financial health, and evaluate business risk, okay, along with many other things. So why should you all become interested in being a CPA? So top 10 reasons, and I'm not going to go through and read all these, but job satisfaction. I will tell you the diversity of career options is plentiful. We went through industry versus public earlier. We have a local speaker who teaches for Becker. She's actually faculty at Pitt now as well. I love bringing her places because she tells her background. She started with PwC in Washington, D.C. She went to their international tax office and lived in Paris for a number of years, decided to come back, and she wanted to do something to help her country. So she worked on the tax committee in Congress, and now she does international tax consulting out of her house because she has a family. So when they say diverse career opportunities, literally the world is yours. So you get that designation, you get your degree from RMU, you can do anything that you'd like. Job security, we've seen over the past couple years, not only the big four and the global firms, the local and the regional firms have been gobbling up candidates. So the number of students that are getting recruited straight out of college has been huge. So again, you have all of these different opportunities. You've already taken the right first step by majoring in accounting and coming here. Now finish it off and get that CPA designation, okay? This I always think is extremely interesting. So employment of accountants and auditors will grow faster through 2020 than any other occupation. So every survey and study I see, accounting and nursing are always 1 and 2 up there for growing careers. The best prospects, as we've talked about, are for those that have a degree and also have the CPA designation. And then according to the AICPA, who monitors all the statistics, 75% of today's CPAs are eligible for retirement, okay? So as you look at job opportunities, I can't stress enough, when we were talking about it earlier, get your designation, make sure you have the credit hours you need, and the world will be yours. And then how many of us are motivated by money, at least partially, right? I know I am. So the salary differential, according to Robert Half, and you have that little Robert Half guide, I believe, According to a Robert Half study, the salary differential over a career for somebody who has an accounting degree but does not have that CPA designation, literally $1 million over the course of a career, okay? So when you think about the opportunities that are open and then the salary and the earnings potential, those are two huge reasons to get that degree and credential. Top 100 places to work, and what they're stressing here, again, going back to all organizations need CPAs, but you can see in the top 100 places to work, Plant Moran, Deloitte, EY, PwC. So I know a lot of people hear the horrors of busy season in public accounting and the lack of work-life balance. Sure, it's out there. You're going to have weeks, months that are extremely difficult, but you can see top 100 places to work is voted on by employees. So when you hear the horror stories, know that there are other parts to those jobs, okay? And then again, all organizations need the CPAs. And accountants are actually ranked as one of the 10 happiest jobs in America. So let's talk a little bit of public versus industry. Because a lot of times we hear, what's that progression look like, or what's the difference? So when you look at public accountants, when you're working in public accounting, they're external accounts. So if you go to a PwC and EY, you're going to be working on engagements outside of your organization. You have a variety of clients. One day you may be working on a government account. The next week you may be working on a publicly traded company. Just depends on the size of firm you go to and what function you're in. Provide a wide range of services, which we'll talk a little bit more about, and they tend to travel and work remotely. Industry, you're going to be working on internal accounts, so whether that's internal audit, corporate finance, things of that nature. Your employer is your client, you're not working externally, and you provide services to that employer exclusively. Again, the bottom here, they tend to have more of a work-life balance. I always look at that as it is what you make of it. So I can tell you as a professional, the days of the traditional 9 to 5 where you show up at the office at 9 o'clock, you leave at 5 o'clock, they're gone, right? So the work-life balance is what you make of it. So again, I don't know that I necessarily agree with the bottom one. You have to make your own work-life balance. So public accounting versus industry, you're gonna have similar ebbs and flows with workload. Public accounting specifically, you see the big 4 and the global 10, your regional accounting firms, so locally your Schneider Downs, your Urish Popex, firms of that nature, small and local firms, and then your sole proprietorships. Specialties, you can see tax, audit, forensics, and what they consider green accounting, okay? And then of course you have consulting, advisory is becoming more and more popular. So roles in public accounting and kind of the steps as you go. Staff accountant, senior manager, partner, okay? I will tell you that the overwhelming majority, to get to manager, they're going to want that you have that CPA designation. When I started with Becker a number of years ago, the audit function was required to have the CPA. They were a little more lenient on tax, but almost across the board now, before you get promoted to manager, they're going to want to see that CPA designation, whether you're an audit or tax, okay? Again, if you're going consulting advisory, there's a little more leeway. They're going to want to see that you have some type of designation, but there are some other options in addition to the CPA. Roles in industry, again, very similar. Staff accountant, senior, accounting manager, director controller, CFO, and of course VP is up there as well. What I will tell you about industry, if you're looking at accounting functions, when you're looking at staff accountant, senior accountant, they are not going to require you to have the CPA designation. But if you want to continue your career in industry, by the time you get to that director controller level and definitely CFO, they're going to want to see that CPA designation, okay? Same spiel I give everyone, the longer you're out of school, the more difficult the exam is going to be. And we'll talk again more once we get into the exam. But my recommendation for you, even if you're graduating, you think you want to go into industry, you think you want to go into government, and your current position doesn't require a CPA or any designation for that matter, look at your boss. Look at your boss's boss. Those are the jobs that you're going to want someday, and if they have a designation or it's required or preferred for that post, make sure you go ahead and get it over with and have that on your resume, right? Going back to differentiating yourself. Any questions on any of that? All right, easy group today. Advanced education is better opportunities. So again, look at the bachelor's degree. You have hundreds of schools pumping out thousands of accounting grads. Then you have people that have the master's level education. Take it one step farther, CPA designation. If you couple a master's degree with a CPA designation, you're going to be able to write your ticket, okay? So that wraps up the part about the careers in accounting. We're going to dive more into the CPA exam. Last call for any questions on careers in accounting. Okay. So how many of you are aware that there are proposed changes for 2017? Okay, that's good. So what I want to stress, two things. This is the asterisk that I am putting up. The AICPA has not finalized and solidified their exact changes. If I was to put a percentage on it at this point, they're about 95% sure that these are the changes. But they ask us, as we're talking to students, to make sure they have that disclaimer out there that the changes have not been set in stone yet, okay? What I will tell you is these changes are going to happen. They may modify what I'm looking at. They may push out the changes. You'll see that it's currently proposed for April of 2017. It wouldn't shock me if they push that out to June or July, but the majority of these changes are absolutely going to happen. So what they're looking at doing, higher order cognitive skills. They want to make sure that candidates have a thorough understanding of the professional responsibilities and ethics, professional skepticism. Again, going back to effective communication skills, the firms have asked them to stress this on the exam, and then a strong understanding of business environment and processes. So what's that mean for you? Is anybody familiar with Bloom's taxonomy on education? And I don't expect you to be, but is anybody by any chance? Okay. So what they're looking at doing here is changing the way in which they ask questions on the exam. So in simple terms, everyone thinks automatically, okay, they're going to go away from multiple choice and go to more simulations, and they certainly are. But looking at this a little farther, what they want to do is make sure that candidates truly understand and can apply the concepts as opposed to just memorizing and regurgitating information, okay? So the timeline for this. September 2015, they produced their exposure draft of the exam changes, and then they had a period of public comment. So firms, universities, review providers, everyone can provide comments to their proposed changes. April 2016, the final changes for the 2017 version will be announced. So like I said, they've given us a pretty good heads up at the exam review providers meeting that this is what's going to change. So we're confident that you're not going to see any other significant changes other than what I'm going to go through. But April 2016, everything will be solidified and set in stone. So you'll get further communications from us at that point. July 2016, the updated CPA exam interface and a new type of task-based simulation will be launched. And again, we'll get to that simulation here in a little bit. And then April 2017, the new version of the uniform CPA exam will be what they consider testable. So what is not changing on the exam? And again, as we were talking earlier, I mentioned that one issue we run into is there's a lot of misinformation that floats around, right? Somebody hears a rumor, talks about it, spreads it around. I've heard everything from the exam was going to become cumulative to there's going to be a fifth part of the exam. I've heard a lot of different things. So let's talk about what's not changing. There's still going to be 4 sections on the exam: financial, audit, regulation, and what we call BEC. The exam will still be comprised of multiple choice questions, what we call task-based simulation. And when we say task-based simulation, what they're referring to is think word problems or fill in this balance sheet, things where you actually have to input data and you're not just picking A, B, C, or D. That's what they refer to by task-based simulation. Written communications, and then written communications will still only be tested on BEC. Again, one of the rumors and one of the things they had looked at was adding written communication back into all 4 parts, but it will still be housed in the BEC part. So what is changing? Again, going back to the focus on higher order cognitive skills, there will be more task-based simulations. I look at it this way. Some people like the task-based simulations, some people don't. Regardless of how you look at it, it will be higher in percentage on all 4 parts of the exam. The total exam length will increase from 14 hours to 16 hours. What that changes, currently on the exam, financial and audit are 4 hours long, BEC and regulation are 3 hours. All 4 parts of the exam will be 4 hours starting in April 2017. And the exam will be slightly more expensive, okay? Right now, the exam range is right around $1,000. It's going to increase slightly in 2017, okay? So, going back to Bloom's taxonomy. This is a little bit about what that looks like. And when you look at the basic understanding, remembering and understanding, so perceiving and comprehending the knowledge. Then you move down into application. Beyond application is analysis, and then the final stage is evaluation. So what this means, remembering and understanding. Do you know a definition, a rule, a concept? Application is, can you apply that to your knowledge base? Analysis, can you relate that definition to other rules and concepts? And then evaluation, can you use those definitions, rules, and concepts together? So the exam will be moving, and again, how they test this is moving from multiple choice to more simulation, more written communications, but it's moving more from the remembering and understanding to that application and analysis. Before anybody gets scared off by this, I will tell you, at your university, at Robert Morris, they're already testing you on application and analysis. They're not testing you simply on remembering and understanding. So this is something that all of you can master and complete. It's just a change in the way they administer the exam. Okay. This is just an example. Is anybody familiar with the CSOs, Content Specification Outline? The way the AICPA currently has it set up, they have it broken down into what they call CSOs, where they'll say, 40% of the regulation part is going to be individual tax, and I'm just making up percentages. But they're going to change the way they break it down, and so you're going to see this exam blueprint released in April. It's not finalized yet, so I don't want to spend a bunch of time on it, but they're going to look at the way they show the percentages and how questions are going to be asked. So more information on this in April, but currently the way you can see the questions asked, and like I mentioned, a lot of it right now is on remembering and understanding, and then some on application right now. So you can see audit and financial, 50 to 60% are remembering and understanding. Reg, also 50 to 60%, and BEC is more at about 80 to 90%, and then it drops down. Application, 40 to 50%, and then 10 to 20. That's on the current exam. So looking at the 2017 exam, it's going to shift, and as I mentioned, they want to put more focus on the application and analysis. What I don't want to do is scare anybody away from this exam, because regardless of you're a 2016 graduate or you're a junior and you're going to be graduating in 2017, likely everybody in this room is going to take at least one part of this exam on the new function, so I don't want to scare anybody away. You're certainly able to pass the new exam. What I will tell you, if you're a senior, I would recommend getting as much as you can out of the way in the 2016 exam before it transitions over, okay? The AICPA has come out and said they don't want the exam to be more difficult, but from everything I'm telling you and everything I'm reading, it's certainly not going to be easier, right? Okay, so current question counts and score weightings. Currently, on financial, audit, and reg, 60% of the exam is multiple choice question, 40% is those task-based simulations. BEC is a little bit different. BEC is 85% multiple choice, 15% written communication. There are no task-based simulations currently on BEC. So when you look at going forward here, I'm trying to see where it's at. Okay, so it's going to move to 50-50 for financial, audit, and reg. BEC is actually going to go to 50% multiple choice, 35% task-based simulation, and then 15% written. So for the seniors in the room, and this is going to be a shift on what we used to tell candidates, for the seniors in the room, if you're going to ask, okay, I can sit, I'm eligible for 2016, what should I start with? My recommendation to you is BEC. And the reason I say that, currently there are no task-based simulations on it, multiple choice and writing. I would take BEC before it transitions over and you have to deal with the task-based simulations, okay? And then the exam structure, like I mentioned, everything will be 4 hours moving forward, including BEC and regulation, which are currently 3. And the task-based simulation, The new one that everyone's talking about is this document review simulation. So they're going to provide you a number of documents and have you obtain and gather information from those documents to answer questions, okay? Similar to being on an audit engagement. You know, you have to collect different documents and produce your opinions based on that. Think in terms of that way. The enhanced task-based simulation, they're just going to add some functionality, make it a little different, beef it up a little bit, if you will. And then this is one that will not be on the exam till 2018. Many of you may not even be aware of this. They have a spreadsheet function on the CPA exam currently, but it's not Excel. So what candidates were telling them, we're familiar with Excel, we're comfortable with it. So for 2018, they will be building in Excel to the exam. Okay, now this is the last one, and I had already mentioned that the exam changes are still what they're considering proposed changes. These are ones that, I know it probably doesn't make sense, but are even more proposed. They're farther away. They're still trying to figure out what they want to do. But again, some of the rumors that are being spread around, they are looking at reducing the blackout periods. So I don't know if that you all are familiar. The third month of each quarter is what they consider a blacked out month, meaning you can't sit for the exam. June is the big one because a lot of people are May grads. They can't sit in June because of the blacked out months. They are looking at reducing blackout periods, which would actually be a positive change for candidates. Looking at allowing candidates to resit for a failed section in that same window. So look at the first quarter of the year, January, February, March. Say you sit for a part of the exam on January 1st and you just feel like you did terrible and you want to sit again in that quarter. Currently, you have to wait to the next testing window. They're looking at eliminating that rule, which again would be positive for candidates. And then increasing the overall time frame to pass all sections of the exam. Does anybody know how long you have to pass all 4 parts? What's that? 18 months, that is correct. So they're looking at expanding that. And again, my thought process, if they're looking at expanding that, which has been in place for quite a while, that's telling me that this exam likely is going to be a little more difficult. So again, like I mentioned, don't wait until 2017. If you have the opportunity to sit earlier, we highly recommend doing so. We don't want to scare you or rush you or do anything like that, but this exam, as you've seen, is likely to go a little more difficult, okay? So seniors in the room, if you take nothing else away from this, study and sit as quickly as possible and start with BEC if you have the opportunity to. We will be emailing everybody as soon as the AICPA confirms all these changes. We're also doing a number of webinars. We're doing webinars for your faculty to make sure they're up to date on all the changes, and we're doing it for students as well. So we'll let you know when everything's confirmed. We'll do a quick webinar. They're also archived, so you don't have to log in on a certain day at a certain time. We will make sure you have all the information that you need to be successful in this process. So for additional questions as you move along, feel free to contact Mary Patterson. You can also contact me. Again, my name's Eric Jackson. My email is really simple. It's ejackson@becker.com. And again, that's going forward. But let me ask you, what questions do you have? I didn't get into a lot of what each section of the exam contains because I know a lot of you are already familiar with that information. But what questions do you have? Anything from the process, applying, the exam itself, how it's scored, anything? Yes?
So how is that going to work? Like if I'm in the middle of it when they change it to the 2017 version, but then I have the prep course, is the prep course still prepping me for this old version?
No, great question though. And no, I didn't pay her to ask that question. So what we do what we call push updates, okay? So say you're a senior and you start studying in June. So you have the software, all of a sudden you go from the current exam to the new exam. All updates will be pushed, okay? Generally speaking, you put into your study planner when you plan on sitting for that part. The study planner will then calculate, do you need this version of the software or this version of the software? So all the updates are pushed. You actually pick when you enroll when you want the book shipped to you, so everything will be current and up to date through your entire study. Along that note, one question we've been getting a lot is, what happens with grandfathering on the exam? So if I pass financial and audit on the 2016 exam, but I still have Reg and BEC, then what? So you are just subject to the new exam for those parts that you don't have passed. So if you pass financial and audit, as long as you don't let that 18 months pass, you only have to pass the remaining 2 sections. Great question, though. Yes? Mhm. Yeah, certainly. Yeah, and so I'll start with every government entity is even different than the next. So make sure you talk to your HR person because you never know what will be available to you. But yes, what we do offer, and RMU has a $400 discount to begin with, or you can do 0% financing. And it's not like 0% financing on a credit card or a new car that no one in the world qualifies for. If you have a degree or you'll be getting a degree, you qualify for Becker's 18-month 0% financing. So you just gets breaking down into payments over 18 months for you. Any other questions? Great questions so far.
Eric, I had a question for
Yes.
you. I don't know, just to reiterate a little bit about the exact eligibility to take the CPA exam in terms of 150 credits or hours and work experience or stuff like that. Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
Certainly. So Pennsylvania, and I'll speak specifically to Pennsylvania to start with. Again, going back to Pennsylvania being a soft 150, the one caveat that makes Pennsylvania a little more difficult, the way the legislation is written, you actually have to have 120 credits and a bachelor's degree conferred. So until Robert Morris produces your final official exam or your transcripts, you are not eligible to sit for the exam. So you need 120 credit hours to sit, 150 to become licensed. Those of you that are going to Michigan, South Carolina, some of the other states you've thrown out, what I always recommend doing, start at the Becker.com website, and I'm not just plugging that because I work for Becker. We have a nice interactive map. So you can click on any state you're considering going to, and it will pop up their rules. Because when I say every state is different, I truly mean that, right? The number of accounting credits needed varies from Pennsylvania to New Jersey to West Virginia. Certain states have an ethics exam, and so if you're looking at a state that has an ethics exam, I always tell everyone don't be concerned about that. Generally, ethics exam are just take-home exams that you have to pass after you pass the CPA exam. Definitely not as difficult. So look out for an ethics exam depending on what state you're going to, and then of course you need work experience before you become a licensed CPA. The other idea we hear floated around that I would say stay away from, a lot of students will say, you know, I'm going to work for a little bit and get my work experience out of the way and then take the exam. Real world experience will actually hurt your performance. So this exam is academia based. There's nothing you are going to gather, learn anything from your real world experience that will help you on this exam, okay? So don't think you need that year of audit experience before you sit for the exam, and that's going to help you. And what a lot of candidates will actually tell you, and I know there's a panel going on later, and I would ask them this question, but a lot of candidates will tell you that real world experience will actually come back to hurt them because they become comfortable and familiar with kind of their firm philosophy and how things are done, and the AICPA is looking for that textbook definition. So I know I jumped all over the place there, but the big things to look for when you're looking at the requirements to sit, do you need 150 before you sit? And again, in Pennsylvania, the answer is no. Do you need to pass an ethics exam? And again, Pennsylvania, the answer is no for that. And then do you need to get 150 to become licensed? In Pennsylvania, you do. The other thing that I'll address, because I know Mary had mentioned that some RMU students had this question earlier, a lot of people hear about sitting early through New York. Is anybody familiar with that philosophy? So, what a lot of students will do, New York's requirements are a little less stringent than Pennsylvania, and they can sit with 120 credit hours, but without the bachelor's degree. So a lot of people will get to that 120 credit hours in their senior year and think, oh, I'm gonna sit through New York, that way I can sit earlier. And especially with the exam changes coming, this is becoming more and more popular. So a lot of people ask us for our opinion, and here's what I will tell you. Number one, talk to your academic advisor here at RMU. Number two, talk to your firm or industry, whoever you're going to, talk to your recruiter and get their thoughts on it. Currently, it has been working for students. There's been a large number of students who have done it, but my concern and my fear is when you're doing that, you're taking money away from the state board in Pennsylvania and giving it to New York. At some point, I would suspect Pennsylvania is going to close that loophole, and I would hate for for you to be in the process when that happens. So if anybody hears, and I'm sure you will, about this New York loophole that people are exploiting, my recommendation to you would be talk to everyone, talk to your advisor, talk to your recruiter, get their thoughts on it, but I would be very careful about doing it because there are some potential downfalls to it.
And also in the packet, sorry, we gave you the Pennsylvania State Requirements, so this is kind of a good resource for you to keep, especially if you're a senior. It goes over the steps that you should be doing for the application process. It talks about the 120, what's required of it. And also, again, if you're from a different state, Michigan or South Carolina, you can go to the Becker website or email me and I can get this information to you. But this has all the information you would need for Pennsylvania, kind of in a snapshot right here, along with what the exam fees are as well.
And the last point I'll leave you with before we do our drawing, so if you want to pass all your white cards to someone at your table and Mary will collect those. And again, this is probably more applicable to seniors and those that the exam is going to be a reality in the near future. What the process looks like, you will actually apply through NASBA for the CPA exam if you're in Pennsylvania. Again, that varies state by state. So you'll complete your application. On that application, you need a few signatures of active CPAs. What I will tell you is it's best to get that done while you're still at RMU, because chances are there's a number of CPAs you know here on faculty that will sign off on the application and say, yes, I attest, I know this person. So if you're looking at sitting for the exam, get your application done, okay? The second part of that, RMU has to send your official transcripts. Once the transcripts get there, they will do what they call marry them together. They'll go through your transcript, do a quick audit to make sure you have the 120, you have the necessary number of accounting credits, and you're eligible to sit for the exam. One thing students ask a lot is, well, can I send my application now and then have it married once I graduate? What NASBA recommends is submitting your application 2 to 3 weeks before your transcripts will be available. They'll hold it for a little bit, but they don't want your file sitting on their desk for 6 months waiting for your transcripts. So you can apply slightly before you graduate. Once RMU sends your transcripts, they're going to process it, and they're going to give you what's called an NTS, okay? Your NTS, or your notice to schedule, is like a ticket to the exam center. So it's going to have a candidate number, and then you're going to go in and you're going to go to the Prometric website. Prometric is the facility where the exam is actually administered. And you're going to go into the Prometric website. You're going to select the date and the time you want to sit for the exam. And then, of course, you're going to study and pass the exam. Again, you'll hear a lot of rumors. If any of you have parents or relatives that are CPAs, or if you're going to a small firm and they'll tell you back in the day how much harder it was, they walked uphill both ways, you know, that whole story. But they'll tell you about how they had to sit for all 4 parts of the exam in 2 days. That's not the way it works anymore. You can pick and choose. You can sit in any order you want. You can sit for all 4 parts in 1 week. You can sit for all 4 parts in 6 months. You can do it however you want. But that NTS, that ticket, once you're given that one time, your transcripts have already gone through. You can sit as many times as you need to pass the exam. So that's kind of a crash course on the process.
And we'll be here, we'll stay here a couple minutes afterwards. I know everyone has a specific situation to their situation. If you have questions about anything, about applying, or when you want to take the exam, your study plan, we'll be here for a couple minutes that we would be more than happy to help guide you through that process. And then on the pink sheet of paper, I also gave you my contact information if you didn't write it down. Freshmen, sophomores, you know, 2 years from now, if you have questions, I work with RMU all the time. But don't be afraid to reach out to me with any questions via email. My favorite thing to do with students is help guide you through this process. So that's what I'm here for as well.
All right, last call for questions. All right, well, we will do your ticket drawing first.
Yeah, all right, for the fun stuff, guys, here. The first drawing is for the RMU t-shirt that was drafted by one of our very own students. So, Eric, if you do the honors of pulling it for us.
No pressure.
Number 607982. Sarah? It is in the front. When you leave, you can grab it, show them your ticket. And for the second drawing, we have for the phone case cover, which is on the back of these things. They're really cool. 607972. Do we have a winner? Anybody? No? Yes? You? No? Oh, all right. Second pick. 607990. Sergio. All righty. All right. Thank you guys so much. Give a round of applause. Oh, we picked one. Oh, okay.
And we are doing 2 sets of Becker flashcards, which are valued $100, something, give or take.
There you go. So I'll read the name. Brandon, sorry if I butchered this, Luca, in the back.
And Brandon, you'll see Mary afterwards, and she'll give you instructions on how to redeem those.
And our second winner, Sarah Ebersini.
She's making out today.
She is lucky.
I think it's rigged.
Wow. There you go. All right. Can you give a round of applause for our presenters today? Thank you guys so much for coming out.